Welcome everybody to Blerdlines. This is your man Cam. With me, as always, is
Big brother Josh,
as well as
the Professor Azor Ohai, and winter is coming.
I mean, it's been like 80 degrees in New York.
Is. November. It'll be winter in a few weeks. I didn't say anything.
It's freezing outside already.
Now it is.
What's the temperature like there?
It is. As I just came from outside, man. I know it's cold. I know what cold is. It is exactly 59 degrees outside, sir, Professor.
That's not cold. That's not cold. I can say that. I mean, Midwest way lower temperature. And you guys get way lower temperatures than that in New York.
It's cold for October.
Yeah, that's true. Yes.
It was better
with all of that.
October. That's all I'm saying.
But with all of that, with the fall, a couple things just passed away. One, we are here talking about Peacemaker just wrapped its second season and final. So I've heard in terms of just like for the foreseeable future, we're not going to see nothing next year or at least 2 years, supposedly. There might be some spinoffs, characters might be hopping in other properties, but for this particular show, this is wrapped for this 2 seasons. And then also, too, just wanted to give a shout out that New York Comic Con just ended. Josh was there. He has a bunch of stuff that he's doing. So we're going to do a separate thing about that. But we just wanted to call out that it happened. It was cool. Blerdlines was there talking to people, interacting. We're going to have some reactions to some of the new trailers that dropped as well. So, yeah.
But we were all over
it. But back to Peacemaker. Peacemaker season 2 wrapped. D'Angelo and I, we both watched it. Josh is halfway through, but don't worry about spoilers. And I would say overall, I liked the series as a whole. The second season was great. The things that I liked about Peacemaker, and we can start the positives first, why not, is the supporting cast was super, super, super dope. Like the supporting cast was so much fun. Everyone had a great time. There was good small character developments throughout. That was one thing that was a big highlight for me. And then also too, like shout out to John Cena, man, from acting like growth wise, he definitely has grown from his first couple, like, even his introduction as Peacemaker to now as an actor, you can tell he's gotten better. And like, he actually continually gets better, which is actually pretty dope. And I think that, that was the highlights, like story wise and everything else was like some fun stuff in there. And I like the twists they took. I like some of the things that they introduced. One of my favorite things was the Lex cameo, and more just because how they did the cameo, because it wasn't so ham-fisted or over like, oh my God, it's Lex Luthor. It was literally like, crap, how are we going to solve this problem? Oh, you know who we can go to. And they went to go to him. And he was just like, all right, I'll help you, but you got to help me. What's good? And I think that just small level of a cameo goes back to what Gunn did in Creature Commandos, when Flag was basically talking to Waller, and then he's talking about his son, and they literally just talked about it for like a 1 to 2 minute scene, but that small little thing tied everything else together. So just seeing Lex for that part and Lex having an actual reason to be there made so much sense, and it actually was cool because it wasn't it ended bringing in one of his henchmen from the Superman movie. So again, it was one of those things where like, if you didn't watch Superman, you would still be like, oh, Lex Luthor, oh, some random henchman, cool. But if you did watch it, it makes it that much more. So I like that, like he did a couple of those things, and there's a lot of good nods to like the DC overall world as itself. And I thought that all the additions that he brought in for season 2 actually worked and had a lot of fun with it. So like there was like, for me, it was like a very satisfying like overall season. We'll get to the finale later, but D, what was your initial thoughts for the season as a whole?
Yeah, it's fine. We had to disappear for a second, get my thoughts together. No, it was really good. Like you said, I think first of all, for me, Peacemaker has been the most surprising thing that I've liked since I started. I randomly watched the first season a little bit after it was done, and initially I did not enjoy what I was seeing, but I'm glad that I came back to it, because then I saw what James Gunn was doing in terms of his character treatments and the story that he was trying to both build on the surface and the micro with the character Christopher Smith, aka Peacemaker, but then also the greater scope storytelling of the DCU and developing where we're going in this whole thing. So, between Creature Commandos, Superman, and now this season of Peacemaker, I think the sort of gods and monsters of the first chapter is starting to fully be realized in what this is, what it means for the metahumans that we've seen so far, as well as the human characters who are involved. And it's like you said, the Lex Luthor appearance wasn't ham-fisted. It was relevant because the whole story was about Peacemaker having this device that allows him to go between universes to access the multiverse, which we know was established, that Lex had developed a similar technology and Superman. We saw this, and I noticed that there was a difference. Whereas Lex's was very unstable, here you have a situation, and it's clearly indicated that it wasn't man-made. You have one that creates a stabilized door, like an actual field where you can travel through, and even the visual aesthetic of it was different than Lex's, where Lex has to make these makeshift bridges, and none of it is safe. There's quantum rivers and things like that that'll tear you up, and black holes at the end and stuff like that. Whereas this isn't, but that wasn't stated at all. You just saw it, and like you said, it exists in a way that if you hadn't seen Superman, this all still stands on its own as the story for Peacemaker season 2. Lex being there, if you have seen Superman and his henchmen and things, that just enhances the overall greater scope narrative or storytelling or the world building that they're doing. So far, I think the best thing about this season is that it's continued this through line of developing, again, chapter 1 of the gods and monsters and all the key players that will be featured now and in the future. Flag Senior was a great use of him as a main antagonist, and that's 3 different ways we've seen him so far. In Creature Commandos, he was a protagonist. In Superman, he was just a supporting character. And then now he's full-blown main antagonist, the leader of Argus. Obviously got a vendetta against Christopher Smith, and he's chasing that whole thing the entire time. But just to reiterate what you said, the performances were really good. Freddie Stroma as Vigilante, I mean, I don't know how James Gunn manages to write a completely psychopathic character that people actually like even more, or like because he has that shade around him that he is completely psychotic, but he's on the side of the angels, if you will. And so, but also Steve Agee as Economos really just shined this season. And everybody else, the new addition, Sol Rodriguez as Sasha Bordeaux, she was excellent in the scenes that they gave her. Tim Meadows as Fleury, kind of almost like a goofy nod at Nick Fury, but also just his own thing in general. I never thought I would laugh at something as asinine and silly as something called Blerdlines, but James Gunn has managed to reach my defenses and get me to absolutely fall out laugh anytime that dude is on screen, either talking about bird blindness or actually in the scene with a bird. I mean, hats off to Tim Meadows as the performer, James Gunn as the writer and the director. That is what I call you can make anything work if you have the right people involved. If you can get the right storytellers involved, and Tim Meadows is as much a storyteller in this situation with his character as is James Gunn, the one who's written the character. So there was a lot of great things that I feel like he did, and we're not even touching on some of the narrative strengths of the storytelling and the way in which it's able to mirror reality or mirror parallel what's happening, some of what's happening in society without stepping completely out of its own world and zeitgeist that it's creating. And I think that's a kind of strength in his writing that goes undervalued because of the kind of silliness that's coded, that he uses to color his world.
Yeah, and just like it's just fun. Like I think in the land of a lot of just like the world is as the world is. We can you don't have to go into all that, but but a lot of the art that's been coming out has been reflecting of that, right? Everyone's a anti-hero. Everyone is sad and depressed or trauma or this and that. And Peacemaker has his own of that, but the characters that he surrounds himself actually helps to counterbalance that. So, foes become kind of semi-friends now and friends become foes. And you're kind of like this interesting space. But I love that even the reveal of them being on Earth X, which is the Nazis won the war one, was funny. And not only is it funny, the reveal was hilarious, but what made it funnier was the next episode where Harcourt was like, dude, how do you not realize this is a Nazi world? He's like, I don't know, I didn't pay attention. He's like, you didn't see the big ass Adolf Hitler mural in the office?
And then the camera cuts to it. He's like, oh, and it's a perfect commentary on that kind of that white male privilege that is in itself can be benign, right? It can be innocent. It can be, I'm just a part of this system, the same as all of us are. And there's more of that later. You could tell that's a theme because James Gunn books ends it with dialogue from the father when Harcourt, when they're later when they're at the house and Economos calls him a Nazi and he's like, don't call me that, and he goes into this whole monologue about, inheriting the world and doing the best he can to fix the problems. He doesn't agree with what's happening. And this is totally different. And it plays on the expectations of the audience because we saw White Dragon last season. We saw the quintessential racist supervillain on screen. And shout out to probably one of the greatest character actors in American history, Robert Patrick. And for the first time, being able to be something other than that archetypal muscle twirling villain, which he does incredibly well, all the way back to the T-1000.
T-1000, yep.
James Gunn using all of those things in the visual medium without having to say all of it. But at the same time, again, you have this character that we were expecting to be the worst of all of this world, this Nazi world. And it turns out that he's really just another person that tries to do what he can, but understands that the machine is much bigger and it does grind people into dust, even those who try to do the right thing. And the best part is when he asks Harcourt, he's like, do you address every injustice in your world? And again, that's bookend later when Economos says to her, when have we ever used our power to help people? And that, I think, is the thing that I'm saying in terms of the connection to real world zeitgeist, which is a lot of people find themselves in that same net of apathy when it comes to what do I do? How do I do it? Even if I'm in a position to do it, what is the process? What is the next step? And how do I do this and protect myself at the same time? Because fear is a basic and the most fundamental of human emotions, right? And so Gunn is having these conversations, but he's having them in a way that makes us laugh at ourselves. And I think that's the best kind of discourse that you can have when it comes to serious issues is not taking yourself so serious, so you can step outside. And you saw that with Peacemaker a lot. There were a lot of moments where he was allowed to just step outside of his reality and reflect and see both what his presence was doing to the people around him and what the people around him were doing to him. And I think that was the great part of that arc.
Yeah, and I think that's the part that in general was like super interesting because like and now for the comic nerd aspect of things, of course we got the Lex thing, but also too we also got Checkmate, which is basically kind of started branches off of Argus, which is kind of cool, gives you a nice logical kind of a thing, and also kind of brings in that anti-hero organization, kind of like Argus is the bad shield and Checkmate is the good shield, essentially, if you want to put it in the Marvel terms. But yeah, I think setting that up. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, just really quick for Checkmate. So in the story, it's Adebayo. They set up the season that she's trying to start this separate agency, but nobody wants to get on board. So by the time the end comes and they've gone through all of this, obviously everybody's on board, and they pick up a couple other extra characters like the great judo master Rip Jagger. Shout out to I think his name is Newt Lee or Nut Lee. I may be pronouncing his name wrong, but he was excellent as judo master. And then, like I said, Flurry joining the team, and Bordeaux. I really am hoping that we get a future Bordeaux Batman scene because that would be great.
Yeah, that would be cool. And I think like that's the thing I like that they did was there's characters and people that are introduced that if you're a comic book fan, you would know, like even Salvation. Salvation is a prison planet. It was in Final Crisis in DC, a major event. In the comics, it was actually pretty cool. They had a whole separate it was a tie-in to a major event called Final Crisis, but it also had its own book. And essentially in that book, Argus basically sent Lex, Joker, the Rogues, and a bunch of the other guys. And Catwoman was there too. And so then they had their own little planet that they ruled over and just like fight and all that kind of stuff. But anyways, setting that up makes it fun because like, again, going back to bringing in that comic aspect of it, but also in a way that if you're only watching this as is, you're just like, oh, wow, a planet that they can send all the prisoners and that'd be kind of interesting. And then if you know more, you see where it's coming from. So I thought in those aspects of it, that's what they did. They did a good job of bridging those gaps. Now we can kind of transition a little bit more to more of the negatives, if you want to put it that way. I thought the ending, or I should say ending, the last episode felt more of a whimper as opposed to climax of a 3-act story. And it settled everything correctly. And I felt like, oh, cool. But it felt like it was so anticlimactic because it was kind of like, it felt like this was the episode before the next episode that we're going to get something grand and big. And then even though it kind of ended on a very like chill mode, there's a lot more dialogue. And I think D called it it was a very emo episode. And there was a lot of that, which again, great stuff. Like all the acting of it was good. And some of the things that came together, we culminate essentially with everyone being like, fuck Argus, let's join Adebayo and freaking make something different. You got the Black said, one of the best scenes is Tim Meadows' character Flurry and Vigilante having a conversation was hilarious, by the way. But yeah, you got to a point where like it was good. It checked all the boxes. It like wrapped up all the things that was going on and set things up. But like it almost was very just like,
well, the Gunn-isms.
And so
I said it was just like Taika with Love and Thunder. He got in his way with
too much gun stuff. Yeah,
too much. We got two musical numbers, and a 1 hour and plus change that he bragged about that was going to be a much longer episode. And the thing that filled those episodes were two music numbers. One was the actual performance of the theme song, which I thought, okay, and then there was another one. And these things can't happen back to back. So that was an issue for me with the finale. I think as much as there were some good things set up with Salvation, leaving it on a cliffhanger for Peacemaker's character for future DCU stuff. There could have been at least one major action sequence that was a little bit more consequential. And I think over the whole, I don't know what you would call it, but he's been doing it since Guardians 1, where all the characters walk toward the camera in slow motion, and as they cut away and then cut back, the shot is wider and someone else joins in, and so they did that for the checkmate scene, and then to obviously show that Judo Master and Sasha Bordeaux and Flurry have all joined the 11th Street Kids, with Peacemaker, Adebayo, Hardcore, and why am I blanking on my guy's name? Steve Aggee's character. Economos.
Oh, Economos.
His name to remember. So yeah, those were the weak spots in the episode. Was the lack of action, too much, too many singing performances in the
numbers
of the episode. So those are my two things.
Yeah. And I think I would say Josh, you got up to maybe half the season?
Yeah, I got about 3 episodes in.
Okay.
So
yeah.
Yes, I agree, and I agree with the last thing that you guys said. I feel like there's too many musical numbers in general throughout the series. It's a little like the third episode, whatever the episode was, I think it was episode 2, where everybody sort of gets back together for their little reunion at the rooftop. And
yes, that's the first one. Right. That was
that's another one that was like, to your point, D'Angelo. That's another one that had like way too many musical numbers in it, and that although it was hilarious that Vigilante is like in his underwear and they're all like pouring beer down his throat. That was just
the end of it too. The beginning, just doing crazy white boy dances, and then by the end, he's just like totally vigilante, like just totally vigilante.
That had me in tears. But I think as far as negatives go, I mean, that was a lot of what I didn't like about the first season, or at least the beginning of the first season, because it's like you guys say, I didn't watch the whole thing. Part of it was it just seemed kind of silly, and it was too much in your reference to Taika Waititi and Ragnarok, not Ragnarok, the last Love and Thunder. Thank you. It just seemed like it was too much Gunn humor in the first season for me, and that's what kind of turned me off and why I didn't finish the first season. And I kind of just took a peek at the second season just to see what was what. And like you guys pointed out, you could see there was a little bit more emotion there. There was something more that John Cena brought to the table that is reeling me back in. I'm definitely going to turn around and watch everything now. But I think a lot of the problems that turned me off of the first season still linger in this season. It gets a little silly at times. I feel like he's sharpened the humor a little bit more. So like Tim Meadows was perfection. Every scene that he was in was absolute hilarity. The bird blindness thing absolutely took me out. And the fact that they leaned on the bird blindness thing more than one scene.
Wait, what did he say? When they went to Peacemaker's house, he's yelling at Economos, "Why you didn't tell me he had a duck?"
Yeah.
And of course, he's talking about Eagly.
And Eagly is that was.
There's no way the scene Eagly as a duck. That's
the scene. That scene should not have worked. Eagly taking out all of those guys when they break into Peacemaker's house. There's no reason why that should have worked, and it absolutely was hysterical. Like I found for a show that I had written off as, I'm not watching this. I don't know what made me. You guys probably made me take a peek at what at it when it first started up, the second season, And I was laid out by the episode where they established Tim Meadows as sort of watching Economos, and then that task force breaking into the house and everybody getting taken out by Eagly was one of the greatest things I've ever seen. It was absolutely hilarious. So I'm going to turn around and watch it for sure.
Yeah, and Eagly is a good, interesting thing where in the first series you're kind of like, all right, CG Bird, cool. But then by the second, Eagly becomes an integral part of the show with the other supporting cast characters as well, especially like the interaction between Eagly and Economos for like the whole season, to the point of finally mutual respect and like actual like thing. Or when in the last few episodes after Peacemaker turns himself in, Eagly's depressed. So he's like in the corner in a closet and not looking at anyone and kind of just basically brooding. And Economos is like, I gotta go find some lunch meat to lure him out the closet.
Yeah, like literally Economos is concerned about Eagly. And that's totally different from when
Eagly is part of the team.
Yeah, he is a part of. He might be one of the most badass members of the team. If I'm being honest, Eagly had his own little storyline this season, which I thought was really, really. It was hilarious, and it wasn't too much. Like the thing with Michael Rooker being the eagle hunter. Again, just hilarity. There's a moment where Sasha Bordeaux, where she's like, once we get you out there, then you'll deal with the eagle and we'll find the device. And then Michael Rooker, the character goes, he goes, yeah, that's right. I'll kill Eagly and then I'll kill every eagle in the near vicinity. And she's like, no, you just get Eagle. and so in this season, he was balancing it a little more in terms of not being too silly. I think he just couldn't help himself with the bird blindness thing. And because Tim Meadows, I think if anybody else had been trying to get that joke over, we would have had the same response that we thought. Because when he first said the bird blindness thing, I was like, oh, here we go. Some kind of stupid thing that just don't matter, that just don't have nothing to do with anything. That's what I thought initially. But then when they showed it in action, and it was with the Eagly and him calling Eagly a duck, and Economos' reaction in response to him saying that it was a duck, it just all worked. It was the perfect landing of a joke, and that was the biggest strength of it. But what I like about this season and what we learned in the first season about the character is that James Gunn treats Peacemaker as he should be seen, and that's in both seasons, right? So in the first season, every one of them saw him for what he was. He was the only one that was very much had these delusions about being a superhero and about being a good guy and about being, and the rest of them are like, no, you're an asshole. You might be racist. You might be some of these other things that are horrible. And
he's completely blind to all of this. That's the thing that makes that sells. He's like, what do you mean I'm racist? What do you mean I'm?
That's how it starts. That's how it
believes that he's on the right side of everything that he's doing and how and his ways of being.
Right. That's where it begins. And then by the time we get to him now, and especially I was going there to bring up the first episode when he is interviewing to be in the Justice Gang. And he's in full Peacemaker costume and he's answering their questions. And at first I thought that was just a moment to be stupid. But then when you see the rest of the season, you understand why that scene was so key. Guy, Maxwell Lord, and Hawkgirl did not take him serious at all. Like they were only doing that probably. And, I kind of surmised that interview came after he did the interview on TV in Superman, where he's talking about Superman and the Justice Gang. So I think that they set that up specifically to mess with him because he, again, on that screen, he's projecting what? Alpha male, asshole. What did he say? I think that they're just jealous of my physique and all that stuff. Fast forward to Peacemaker season 2, they got him, and they're like positioned as on the dais above him. He's positioned low. He's got on his getup. They don't. She's not wearing her mask. She's reading the magazine. They're not taking him serious, and that becomes the calling thing for the calling motivation of his season, no arc, is he's trying to be taken serious by hardcore. By when he finds the family and they respond to him seriously, that's intoxicating for him. So much so that despite the fact that he's killed his doppelganger, he goes back to try to live that life. And I also noticed, this is the last thing I'll say, is that he never puts back on the Peacemaker costume when he is in his real universe. He only wears it again when he is in the other one pretending to be someone else. And I think that was a good visual detail because, again, going back to that first scene with the Justice Gang, they broke him. And they broke him good. And he couldn't, and each subsequent story arc was just more of that tearing him down to that last moment.
Yeah, and I think and that's why, like, throughout the whole season, when he's in the real world, quote unquote, he really isn't doing much besides brooding, being sad, and moping about. And then when he goes into the other world, he's like, oh, wow, I can finally be me, quote unquote, version of me. He's trying to get back in with hardcore. Another good cameo by Rick Flag Jr. Like they just like his contract like, yo, we just need you for about 7 minutes in the season of a show. How much you want?
Yeah, that was good. Joe White Anthony Mackie. No, I'm gonna stop saying that. He is. It was good to see his appearance.
Yeah, White Anthony Mackie. Yeah, that was good. That was a good way to kind of like bridge that together, and then also again, just good callbacks. Like I think that's the thing that the good thing about Peacemaker's show is it lives firmly within the world that it's in, and so like in contrast to say like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., their first 2 seasons they were in the MCU world. But after that, they kind of veered off into their own kind of thing. And you very rarely heard anything that was happening around outside of what was going on on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the show. They were firmly on the ground in this space. But after the second season, you didn't even know that they were connected to anything Marvel-ish until someone like maybe mentioned something, whatever. And I think Peacemaker did a really good job of doing that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just going to add you were saying is that in the 5th season they have the Thanos mention, but what they were doing at first it was very entrenched and it was like it mattered, and then it was choppy as to whether it mattered or not until we get to the Thanos moment. And then after that, for the last 2 seasons, it was a weird position. But yeah, Peacemaker lives in its own world, and it's always about Christopher Smith's world and what's happening there.
And to that point, when again, not having seen the entire season, what jumps out at me and what intrigued me the most about this season was the first time that he crosses over into the parallel unit, into the other universe, and he's sitting with it. It wasn't the first time, second time, when he sits with his dad and his brother. And they're like, hey, where you been? Everything okay? Like he's outside. He's trying to, he thinks he's going to go explore the world. And then his brother pulls up in the car and they sit down and they have a drink. How unsettled, I was telling Dee this, how unsettled he was at the mere idea that his brother and his father were normal people. And just the discomfort that he had, that it's just leaping off of him. Right, exactly. And the fact that they're alive, the discomfort that he has just sitting there trying to be normal with these two is palpable. Like it leaps through the camera and through the television and like punches you right in the face. And I was just like, all right, there's clearly more here than I thought there was. Yeah. So, you know, I'm looking forward to see if there's more there, and it seems like there would be based on where where he's trending by that point. I'm absolutely looking forward to seeing the rest of it and seeing how he develops further.
Well, in episode 7,
like I think. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to bring up in episode 7, they really do bookend what you just talked about with his performance. And there's in there, spoiler alert, here it comes. In that toward the end in that episode, when they when the brother and the father bring them back to the mansion, they get everybody together who were there. So Judo Master is brought back in. They were very careful before bringing Adebayo in. Hardcore is like, yeah, we're not. Basically, that's when they called him a Nazi, and he got mad because they're like, there's a black woman with us, and we already know what you guys are going to try to do to her. And so they were trying to protect Adebayo, obviously. And but anyway, that scene blows up when Vigilante, being Vigilante, at the end of Good Dad's speech, jumps through the window and stabs him in the neck repeatedly and kills him. And literally, like, Vigilante was outside. And I should mention, it's not just him alone. It is him and his doppelganger. So it is two psychotic vigilantes. One loves Peacemaker. One hates Peacemaker. The one that loves him sees the dad giving his speech and standing next to him. And they're like, obviously, so you can understand why Vigilante might, obviously he's psychotic, but why he might react that way if he's outside, he can't hear what they're saying. He knows the dad.
And also too, and also you got to remember too is the Vigilante, the doppelganger one, he's actually on, he's part of the Sons of Liberty, which is the resistance against the Nazi occupied. So in his eyes, you know, Peacemaker's dad is like, is all bad. So whatever, he doesn't even matter why he's doing it, but he's just a bad dude. And that's why he was like, I hate Peacemaker and that family because they represent everything in this world that's like that power structure. So when doppelganger, Vigilante comes in and starts stabbing, you're like, oh shit. But then you're also like, oh, that kind of makes sense because he doesn't like him anyways. But we found out that he
didn't like the from the other world. And this is the different, that's the thing that the two of them aligned on. Both of them hates Peacemaker's dad. Both of them do. And so he jumps through the window and he starts stabbing her without saying it. And this is just as the dad is talking down Keith. Like he's like, look, you know your brother was a mess. He says that it was an accident. I believe him. Like he's like, I know what you went through because when I first went in there and I saw the version of me, I thought that, those people gotta be brutal. Like when I saw him, like, like he's an asshole. So it was a very interesting thing. And I did not expect that to end with Vigilante knifing him in the neck. Like that was the total twist of it all. But it led to a very powerful emotional performance from John Cena. And that's where I was going because they attack Keith, who tries to attack Chris, right? Because he's mad. Like this whole thing is because like he just lost his dad, like all of this stuff. His world has basically been destroyed in less than several hours. And it's really because of Chris. If Chris doesn't come back, doesn't go back to the world, just allow them to think that their version of Peacemaker disappeared or died, none of that happens. And so John Cena breaks down when the 11th Street kids literally jump on Keith and they're Vigilante is knifing them. And the others are like kicking them and punching them. Vigilante definitely did the most damage because he was stabbing them. But John screams, "Stop!" Like I can't even do the performance. Like it was like such a powerful moment when he screamed, "Stop!" And he's like, what's wrong with us? Like it's me, you know, like I am the one, I'm the reason that people around me suffer. And it was a great moment, a great performance.
And it kind of showed the chaos that has been his life up into that moment, and then him finally getting self-aware of what was going on. And I think that with that being the case, now looking at the final episode in contrast makes a lot more sense, because he's kind of just like, he gives up, turns himself in, put me in jail. People want to visit him. He's like, nah, I don't want to see nobody. You know, everyone's trying to figure out like how to get to him and that kind of stuff. And the reason why Checkmate even happens is when Adebayo visits Vigilante, goes to his secret basement, and she was like, "What in the drug lord shit?" He's like, "Yeah, you know, when I stop drug dealers, they got a bunch of money and a bunch of coke. I can't give it to the cops; they're corrupt. So I just
dude's got here. Millions of dollars, stacks, millions in his lair."
Oh. That's blood money.
Millions of dollars wrapped and insulated, coke, all of it. So literally, he funds Checkmate. He funds Checkmate because he's got all this money that he says is cursed blood money.
That is great.
And he would rather than use the money, the blood money, he'd rather go and kill a judge and his family to help Peacemaker.
Right.
Our lovable psychopath.
Yo, he was like,
everybody has one.
She's like, we're not going to do a prison break. He's like, why not? He's like, because we could just bail him out of judge. She's like, we can't use this money. This is drug. This is blood money. This money is cursed. Such a good character. But yeah, I would say overall, like the best part about these types of characters and everyone kind of going together would be that they made a good job of making them all come together. And so even when Peacemaker is not in the scene, his presence is there, or they're all motivated by helping him, doing something to him that can help or be in that realm, because in his own way, he's helped each one of these characters. Yeah, like, exactly. And so he's
one of those.
All right, so I guess the question then comes, based on where it's left off, where do you foresee his character going, and where do you foresee like with the lead up, with the ending being what it was, what does it lead up to? What do you think the next appearance is going to be? What do you think the next move for the universe?
Yeah. So it'll be interesting because they've already said, like Gunn said recently, that they're not really doing a season 3 just because he got other things going on and that stuff. So and to be honest, it's kind of a good thing. I think they already had talked about a Waller spinoff series that was going to happen. It was supposed to be a prequel to Superman, but ended up, because of labor disputes and other things, they kind of like chilled for a little bit. So now it probably will be a direct sequel of this, I'm assuming. I'm supposed
to come before this, and they did season 2 and kind of moved up some of the stuff, like you said, that was supposed to connect Superman and the ground stuff and the ground level stuff.
Yeah, and so I kind of agree with you. I think I have a feeling that I think they can. If they do go ahead and do a Waller spinoff, I think Cadmus is kind of is the perfect realm to kind of put that. And if you introduce Cadmus, that means you get to introduce Superboy. You can introduce a bunch of things. So there's a good space in there to kind of like pull that out. And then like, if you have Waller, that means you have access to literally all the characters that came before her. So she can just easily they can easily grab anybody in just to do it, Also, with the introduction of Checkmate, them being around is going to be fun, just because now they could easily just pop up in anything, and all those characters are super fun. Sasha Bordeaux, same thing with thing. Other thing too is her character did start with the Batman's start, but then she became very integral to a lot of the Checkmate stories past that, and then also too in those Checkmate stories, she's also romantically linked to Mr. Terrific. And Mr. Terrific had a really great run within Checkmate as well in the comics. So there's a lot of things that they can play around with.
The black character gets a lady? Okay.
Yeah, he does. But if they go that route, but she's also romantically linked to Batman as well. So
I even
already said that she is hoping that they pair Sacha Bordeaux with Batman in the future.
And honestly, that would be a cool. Yeah, they could do that. And I think if they do that story, just as a quick comic book nerd aside, is essentially Lucius Fox is like telling Wayne he needs a bodyguard. And so he gets like this secret agent service person. It's Sacha Bordeaux. So she's like, all right, cool. Follows him around. And then she's like, okay, this dude be slipping out all the time. What the hell's going on? Eventually finds, you're Batman. Okay, this makes sense. And so he kind of figures, all right, you know what? You're actually pretty good. I could train you. And so he trains her and basically treats her as someone he doesn't know as Batman and as Wayne, but still trains her behind the scenes. And so that kind of leads to them kind of getting more closer. She develops feelings for him. He kind of reciprocates at a certain point. Then a bunch of shit happens.
And he does
resulting in her. Which essentially results in her becoming a cyborg. Blah 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 blah. Anyways, when she gets, it's DC, so no shit.
Since that's already happened in the DCU, it's possible that the character has already met Batman, Bruce Wayne. That this is already, and also said that she's hoping that they do something with Bruce. And Batman.
And they introduced her as a metahuman already. So that kind of like needs a little bit. That's kind of cool. And then her connection to Checkmate comes when I forgot whatever thing that happened, she ends up getting gravely injured, about to die. And Checkmate comes in and saves her essentially and was like, yo, we'll save you, but you got to rock with us. And then they fake her death. And, Batman's like, I know she didn't die. So he's like trying to figure it out. Figures out it's Checkmate, and he's like, "Oh, Checkmate got my girl, so everything that's Checkmate in Gotham, we nixed all of that." So he fucks up all of their operations. So Checkmate's kind of like, "Fine, hey Batman, we got your girl. Let's have a sit down." And like they sit down. He like confesses that he's digging her, and they both agree that they're into each other and that kind of stuff. But then she basically is like, yo, I got a kind of a new life with Checkmate and doing other things. And I know it's not going to be able to work with what you got going on. So they kind of go their separate ways. So then her character basically needs a pretty integral part into Checkmate. And that's where Mr. Terrific comes in. Because Mr. Terrific has a good stint with Checkmate for, I think, 2 good series, actually. It's actually some really good stories. But yeah, that's where she kind of plays in.
You can see where there's potential, where he's kind of set up these potential story narrative paths for future DCU project. I do think that Argus is going to develop into Cadmus. I think that's one of the reasons Lex appeared, and they're connecting him to all of this stuff, the metahumans, the secret work that they're doing, that the government's doing. That's how he's literally is buying his freedom from what he did. And so I can see that happening. Checkmate is likely going to be one of those things that appears in multiple stories. If it's not Adebayo and Hardcore is going to be like, I don't see them all being in it at once unless it's like an animated or they do something specifically that's Checkmate. But if it's just them appearing in, if they're just supporting characters, then we'll likely get a Bordeaux with Fleury, and then another time Economos is with, he's got Eagly, and they're trying, because obviously the next time we see them, they're going to be looking for Peacemaker, right? Because Flag Savior has taken him and put him in Salvation. So that's what they're going to be looking for. So I think going back to your original question, Josh, all of what I'm looking forward to or what I see is a lot of potential for them to really go give us some of our favorite DC arcs. There's even a little hint at possibly one of the early crossovers being, where more of all the characters appear in the same film is probably going to be Crisis on Infinite Earth, because they're already setting that up, right? Because we see, and obviously I would think that they wouldn't want to do Darkseid too early, because what's his name is already did it and flubbed it, and then Darkseid is too comparable to Thanos as a first top greater scope villain.
Yeah.
Also, he is the end boss of DC in terms of like who is the evil Dark Lord of DC? It's without question Darkseid.
And also too. Yeah, and I would also say like you need for a Darkseid, you need a Justice League. And so if you don't have a Justice League established and Darkseid kind of pops up, there's not. It's just like it's basically Superman fighting Darkseid for about for 2 hours, and like
you not only need a Justice League, you need an organized Justice League that has been working together for many years,
100%.
has an agreement with the GL and with the new gods of New Genesis.
Yep,
right.
Exactly.
They're an established entity that has done things that merits the attention of a Darkseid, and B positions them in a way that it's not just like, random group of people get together and look, this bad thing over there is happening. We should probably stop it.
Talk about Darkseid.
and
just teaming up, y'all dead within the 5 minutes.
Yeah. And I think that's my thing with He Who Shall Not Be Named's Darkseid like edition, because it's like, Darkseid is a universal threat. Anti-life equation, anti-monitor, like he's that big. So he wouldn't come to a dinky
universe, which means that essential as nature is to Earth, but in the universe, like that's he's the great shark. He's the great white shark of the universe, and he can't without him. It falls apart. He's one of those forces.
And you're not. Yeah, and like you're not like again, Darkseid coming to the Earth is like the Earth's dead. It's not like a vacation. Like he doesn't just come in and just be like, oh hey, what's going on, guys? Like Thanos at his level does that. He'll pop in real quick and
place you have here. I'm gonna come and go. When he touches down, it's finished.
His favorite position where he's standing at ease in the military, in the military form. Because he does not have to. Darkseid has been the only one who has put Superman down to the point where if he wanted to, he could absolutely kill him. But Darkseid does not want to kill Superman. That's the thing.
He thinks he's essential. Yeah.
He wants Superman to lead his arm. Darkseid wants for Superman what Ra's al Ghul wants for Batman, which is this is my forget Calabash,
lead my army.
I want that Kryptonian because I can mold him into the ultimate weapon and the ultimate. They did it in the Superman animated series. That's how it ended. Was when Darkseid warped Kal-El and had him as his general and as the Prince of Apocalypse. And they were taking worlds left and right and employing the anti-life by force because he had Superman. But that's the kind of power that he has. He's always been in these stories where he subdued Superman in a way that nobody else. Doomsday just uses the brutality to kill him. But Darkseid has made him suffer so much worse. Yeah.
He breaks him. Yeah.
Yep. Nah, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's the thing where it's like I've been seeing they've always used Darkseid in very interesting ways. And those are those ones where I'm like, even they did a really good Darkseid story where a Justice League team was kind of trapped in on the other side of the galaxy. And it was like Cyborg, Jessica Cruz, GL, Azrael, and I think someone else, like one other character. Adam Strange. But they used Darkseid in that thing. And it was interesting. And it was a depowered Darkseid. And that was the whole point of the story was he's depowered. He didn't have his full strength. And because of that, he needed these guys. And it showed more of the manipulation, the more of the strategy, the tactician of him. And then when he finally got his full strength, it's another different story. But again, it's one of those things where like, this is a good character that to DC's credit, even when he loses, he wins. And so even in this absolute line, the absolute line that's going on right now, is actually really, really good. So I definitely recommend it. A lot of that comes from a Darkseid storyline. And so with that being said, you're right. I would hope that in these next years, if we get DC villains, give me some Brainiac, give me the New Gods, give me random give me Thanagarians, there's so much other things. We don't need to see a dark side for a minute.
There's a lot. And even if you want to hint at Apocalypse, you can give us a smaller version of that. You can have Decide on Earth, and he's not like a heavy hitter, but Decide works for Darkseid in a way that is greater, that leads to greater scope things. And I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see Decide toward the end of this Gods and Monsters chapter, because you can't have that conversation in DC about gods and monsters and not include the New Gods or the apocalyptic gods, because they're all they are the sort of linchpins of those stories. So
and you're getting
they're the gods and the gods and monsters, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, they're the double entendre gods, because obviously the gods and monsters is the metahumans who decide to either be good on the side of good or who become monsters, like Mr. Eric Frankenstein, who's kind of straddles both.
I think the other aspect of it,
not just right. It is that too, Josh, but it's got that double meaning of referring to the metahumans themselves.
Yeah, and I would say also too, like at the end of the day, you have so much things that you can pull from. And I think that they're doing a good job of adding, sprinkling everything in so we can have these conversations. So it's not as ham-fisted as how a lot of the Marvel, the MCU is such an interesting case study, because their first 3-4 movies, they were hoping that shit worked. And when it did, they're like, oh, well, maybe we should make a thing. And they actually made a thing. They plotted it out. It concluded with Endgame. And then from there, they're kind of like, oh, we still got more time.
So
what are we gonna do now?
What do we do now?
They kind of got high. They got high on their own supply plus COVID, and they just kind of made a mess of things. And DC had their own DC thing,
which in hindsight they probably should have paid the course, because honestly, even though it was choppy, they were trying to do something with the Kang thing, and you saw that.
Yep, exactly.
Between they jacked it up in Ant-Man, but they were still trying to do something greater scope with Kang and with the multiverse.
Yep.
So that's why this whole thing, Doom and the Fantastic Four and all of this stuff, seems out of left field, because their plan was set up for Kang Dynasty.
There's no setup for it whatsoever. Whereas the Kang thing slowly progressed into I maintain Jonathan Majors, man. He was the only good thing about that Ant-Man 3 movie. He really he was the standout. So it's a shame that it didn't it's a shame that it didn't pan out, man. I think they could have delayed it and just and come back and swung back around to it later. I don't think they should kibosh it completely.
They shouldn't. You're right. That was a knee-jerk response to a situation that hadn't even been resolved yet. And I think those are the kind of responses that we've been seeing in this sort of cancel culture thing, where I'm not saying that we need to get Avengers Kang Dynasty or he needs to be rehired or anything like that, but it was a knee-jerk reaction that in many cases, it did more damage to Marvel than it has to Jonathan Majors, because ever since that decision and their decision to pivot to this direction they're on now, they've had almost either lukewarm to mediocre to really bad receptions of their stuff. So they should have stayed the course. And I think that's what James Gunn is doing, to bring it back to DCU. He's trying his best to stay the course. I believe them when he says that the Clayface body horror script is dope. I believe him when he says that I believe all these people who are saying that the Batman Part 2 script is dope. And then people started to see the zeitgeist of this time, the spirit of this time has told us that things should be done quickly and fast and without any kind of true quality applied to it. But James Gunn and some of these
doing the exact opposite.
Exactly. I got a script. When that script is in its 6th, 7th, 8th draft and it is ready and more than just me have looked at it and approved it, then we'll shoot. We're not going to schedule something and we don't have the very thing that will make or break it, which is a screenplay.
Right.
And that's why even with Fantastic Four, when Matt Shackman is like, when they asked him, "Oh, did you know about the Thunderbolts Fantastic Four?" He's like, "No, they shot that sometime. I didn't know what that was. We shot our thing in totally different without that even in mind. Inconsistency, but it's being put out there as continuity. You got one person looking that way, the other person looking that way, and in the middle, the audience is like, "What? What's happening right now?"
And that's the part that's so crazy because, even if you use the comics as how, because at Marvel, what they do, they plot things out about to their credit, it's usually about 18 months, 12 to 18 months at a time, right? But what they do is they do writer retreats where they're like, all right, all the Spider-Man people, all the X-Men people, all the everybody people, what do you guys got going on for your next 18 months? Everyone says it and they're like, oh, whoa, I'm going to use this character and this character. Oh, wait, well, give me your character and I'll give you, okay, cool. But they work all that ish out. So whether you agree with it or not, at least there's a plan. And I think that
a sandbox somewhere for the writers to play and build, and they can build something. That's what James Gunn has created. Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. So you can build around that. Clayface, Preacher Commandos, all these things speak to Superman. They all speak to that sandbox, Gods and Monsters.
And there's a linear trajectory, right? Like you can kind of, even with just the few installments that he's had between Preacher Commandos, Superman, and now Peacemaker, you can kind of see what he's building towards. You don't know what it is, but it has a sense of connectedness, but not in a way that requires you to have watched the thing before. It's light tethers that sort of chain everything together in this sort of invisible thread. Yeah. And you can kind of sense that it's building towards making it a larger world, not necessarily this connects to that, connects to that, connects to that, so that you get poof. It's going to be that, but the way that he's doing it doesn't make you feel like you have to watch everything and that everything that's, the next thing that comes is going to be bigger than the last thing, and that's bigger than the last thing, and then it's progressing in a really intelligent way, and I think just the whole no unfinished scripts thing, and just the methodology he's employing just in general, you can tell that when it finally culminates in whatever the big Gods and Monsters thing ends up being, it's going to be done well. Like there's, like you say, like the Clayface thing in my mind doesn't necessarily need to happen, but the fact that he's so high on it gives me a certain level of confidence that even the things that I'm like, it's Clayface. You don't need to make a Clayface movie. But the fact that he's so high on it makes me feel like, all right, this is probably going to be dope. And I love when visionaries make you feel like it's going to be dope. You just don't see it yet. Just relax. Just calm down. It's coming. And when it gets here, you're going to get it. Yeah. And
that was a script that turned his eye on that, because he probably felt the same way that you and I, or that all of us are saying. There's no need for a Clayface film. The villain, there is a compelling backstory there with his history. And the thing about Clayface is that he is kind of a tragic villain more than he is like a dastardly evil individual. Yes, and so there's room to tell a kind of solo story there, and also still set him up for being a potential enemy of the DCU, of the Bat family, since we know it's going to be all of them, not just Bruce.
Yeah, and also there's iterations to later on where Clayface becomes part of the Bat family as well because of that kind of like questionable backstory where later on it's like, well, I mean, he's evil, but it's more just because he never got a chance. And then, you know, Bats gives him a chance. Of course, does, and then it actually works. So
you saw
I think that
in Young Justice when you saw that he kept being routinely used, and even in Creature Commandos, he was being used. Well, not used, he was being paid. And so also again, the thinking about character development, world development. Rick Flag Sr. got his ass kicked by metahumans in almost every episode. in
every episode.
And not just his ass kicked, he was almost murdered by all of them.
Right, in Creature Commandos,
the worst, because he's like trying to talk him down, and he's like burning them with like radiation. So you can see now, and this is what I'm saying about development, where you don't have to say these things, you just show it. From there to Superman to him being the main antagonist now he's on a mission because he's had run-ins with these superpowered individuals, and they have almost taken his life on whims.
Yep.
Eric Frankenstein beat him down because he thought he was trying to mess with his girl. It literally almost killed him.
Which is still one of the best things about Creature Commandos. That was easily one of the best things that happened on that show.
So you see how
good.
that
and also too
develops to an antagonist for our metahuman characters because he's human. He can't take the risk. And now Waller and the words of Waller and the words of Luthor are getting in his head because those two are like the leaders of Cadmus and Argus and all that stuff. And you know she's coming back. You know she's behind the scenes.
Yeah.
She's doing something. She's involved somewhere and we just can't see it yet.
And I like that's where, again, Creature Commandos adds to the character of Rick Flag Sr. so that when you watch Peacemaker, you see why he's even more amped up. Because like you said, you guys ass whoop literally every episode. And then the other aspect of it too that was interesting in the two quick asides, one is Gunn was talking about his casting for Creature Commandos, that the people that got casted could easily do the same role in real life, which would be cool. And he already thought about that ahead of time, which again makes sense. The Bride, and then even with Frankenstein, David Harbour and all that. So these people could play these roles.
A live action Bride would make me one of the happiest people on the planet.
I love
shout out to Miss Pussy from Human Target. But I think, and then also what was I going to say? And then the last one I was going to say before I get to our final question is the concept of salvation, the prison planet, is actually from a pitch from our man George R.R. Martin. And then and so it was a pitch that he didn't go anywhere. And then when they were doing Final Crisis, the overall story arc, that worked its way into it. And so then there's a separate miniseries called Salvation Run, where basically it tells the story of all the villains there and then that whole situation.
I hope he also got a good story as well. Or at least paid well for it. Because that sounds like George's always out here. But so I would say overall, one of the things I think we can all kind of agree is like, one, it was highly enjoyable. That's the one thing I say that much like Josh, I watched Peacemaker when it came. I was like, I'll watch it when I watch it. And then we talked about it. I was like, okay, it's cool. And then what I did was before the season 2 drop, I was like, all right, let me rewatch 1. And I did a rewatch, right? I did Suicide Squad, went into Peacemaker 1, and then I watched Peacemaker 2. And then, previously I actually really enjoyed Creature Commandos. So all of the Gunn offerings are one of those things where it's been an enjoyable ride and good entertainment. And I think that from there, that's what the basis is. And on top of that, you got solid storytelling. You got really good writings. You got some Gunn-isms here and there. But the basis of is it entertaining and is it a solid story? And those two things have been a good consistent and great performers. And those have been the consistents through all of the stuff that's been in this Gunn situation where he's definitely showing his you can definitely see two separate visions of DC right now in these past in these like different narrations, and
I think DC is in a better space and going in a better move with these moves. And you can definitely see the improvements, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna say add one thing, and that is he mentioned that Salvation is going to have a role. It's going to play a role in Lanterns, and Lanterns is the next DCU TV show. I think it might be the next thing in general from the DCU.
Yeah, I think so.
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I think it's that. There might be. There might be.
Next year. I think next year or the year after.
I think that. Yeah, that, and then I think for cartoon, it might be Mr. Miracle. I think it's going to be the other one,
yes,
which kind of ties into Apocalypse with Big Barda and like that kind of a thing. So
that's what I'm saying.
Think those two are the next.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw the New Gods or somebody from Apocalypse. Granny Goodness. I mean, she's typically one of those that comes to Earth and causes a ruckus every now and then. Yeah. So I can see it being we'll get a backdoor introduction, even if it's not like, okay, now we're gonna go towards the Justice League versus Apocalypse. No, that's a long way from now.
Yeah,
got to get the Watchtower.
We definitely got.
We get that.
Yeah, but I think it's gonna be some good stuff. So, but yeah, that's our take on the DC. As always, DC overall, but overall, good job on Peacemaker. I think DC is in good hands with Gunn so far, and again, I like that he puts his money where his mouth is, and then he delivers. I think that's the big thing that he's been every time he said, just like D said. He's like, do we care about a Clayface movie? Absolutely not. But then Gunn's like, actually, it's kind of dope. I think this might be cool. Then we're like, all right, well, we'll see.
Yeah, I saw a good script. And we're like, oh, you saw a good script? Go ahead and schedule that production there. We approve.
Facts. Exactly.
But I was going to say, we have a lot of reasons to be very hopeful for the DCU, which is good because DC in general, we know they went through a period, right? So it's good to see them coming back. And I actually want to see Marvel improve too, because if both of them are firing on all cylinders, that just means good things for the fans and the audience. But we haven't seen anything that's not been written or directed by James Gunn yet. So it's going to be interesting to have that turn next time around. Okay. Yeah, we need it'll be interesting to see some new stuff from a different filmmaker. So that's why Lanterns and Clayface will be interesting.
Yeah, you're right. That's it's kind of like you said. It's everything under his little bubble has been great. Now it's starting to extend. Now we're going to see what happens. So with that, thanks for everybody for rocking with us. Like, subscribe, share, tell a friend, all those good things. We got a lot more stuff coming up this week and over the next couple weeks. So yeah, keep it locked. Blerdlines, and we are out.